My name is Lori Olszewski, and I am the president of Home Children Canada. Thank you for having me here today to speak about the home children. Canada today is a peaceful and prosperous nation made up of people from all around the world. The true spirit of Canada was laid by our First Nations and Inuit people. Over time, Canada grew to become a nation of immigrants. The path that led to Canada becoming the great nation it is today was not formed easily. Many Indigenous people and immigrants alike endured great pain and hardship along the way. One of the lesser known and spoken about groups of immigrants are the home children. From 1869 to 1948, over 100,000 children from toddlers to 18 were forcibly immigrated from the UK to Canada. Victorian England was a time of overcrowding, unsanitary living conditions, and widespread poverty. Children were put to work in coal mines and factories in order for families to survive. Charitable organizations wanted to help these children by taking them into homes or institutions to clothe and feed them. For a hungry, cold child, this must have seemed like a dream come true at first. But this help was only for the children, not the whole family. So the children were separated from their parents and very often from their brothers and sisters. Some children came from bad family situations or families too poor to care for them, and some suffering the loss of one or both of their parents. Some groups in Canada did not want the poor children of Britain streets. The children were called street rats, gutter snipes, and diseased. They feared these children would taint our country, and they demanded what they considered to be a better quality of child. Only the cream of the crop should be chosen for immigration. Children who came from the poorhouses were segregated, and the sending organizations were discouraged from bringing them to Canada. Britain had no social systems in place to help families in crisis. Instead, big institutions to house just the children from the suffering families sprang up across the UK. The living conditions were indeed better than the poorhouse, and parents and families often felt they were doing the best thing they could for their children when sending them to live in the institutions. It was from there that the cream of the crop were selected for immigration. It was often only to ensure they had a full boat of children that those living in the poorhouses were selected. Instead of helping families in crisis as we do today, Britain chose to flush their country of tens of thousands of the children from the families in crisis. Forced separation of impoverished or needy children from their families was a poor solution that lasted almost a century. Could you imagine being an impressionable child in this situation, separated from all that was familiar to you, separated from home, community, family, and left with nobody to protect you, nobody to comfort you, with the exception of the institutions and the people who worked there? It is a myth that these children were orphans. Only an estimated 12% truly were. Then, to compound their suffering, the children were packed into boats, often in groups of hundreds, and shipped to the British colonies of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa. Very little consideration was given to maintaining the bond between brothers and sisters. Some stayed together for the trip, but there was no guarantee that they would stay together once they arrived in their host country. Some siblings were sent to different countries altogether. Children, and often their families, were promised that Canada's clean, fresh air and wide open spaces held opportunities for the children to grow up healthy, safe, and to have productive lives. Many struggling parents with few other options turned their children over, believing this to be true. However, good placements in Canada was down to luck, as the farmers were not vetted properly. Many children sadly found themselves abandoned in worse situations than from where they came. All alone in this world, without the comfort of their families or even their friends, they were placed on farms spread far and wide, often in remote areas. Some children were placed in residential schools. The cold, harsh reality was, the children were not brought here for love. They were here to work. Stigmatized by Canadian politicians and our medical communities, many were made to sleep in barns or in a part of the house far away from the farmer's family. Here at Home Children Canada, we aspire to bring the truth of the home children story to light, and we work towards reuniting the fractured families created as a result of these immigration programs. We have worked with many survivors of these programs to assure them that they are now an honored and respected segment of our society, and that their story will be told. It will become a part of our Canadian history. They were and are nation builders of Canada, and will be forever remembered and respected for their contributions to our great country, both in the building of Canada and in their service in our wars. Bill Dennis, thank you for speaking up and giving voice to the home children. You inspire us to continue our quest of sharing and telling the stories of our home children. See what happens when you give voice to the story, when one person stands up and speaks out for the home children. Your father would be so proud of what you have accomplished here. Pat Skidmore, you are such a strong voice for the children, and it's always a pleasure to work with you. Minister Keith Simmons, thank you for not only listening to Bill, but hearing our children's voices calling out for recognition through him. God bless you all, and thank you for listening.